What's up, Comic Book Nation? Welcome to the studio here at San Diego Comic-Con on BD. And right now, I am joined by the cast of Pennyworth, which looks awesome. And we have the producers here as well. This is really exciting stuff.
Looks awesome.
We've seen trailers. A couple of members of our staff have seen episodes. Really cool stuff you guys are doing. So let me just start there with the fact that we're doing Pennyworth and the tone here. It's dark, it's violent, it's different from what we would have maybe expected when we first heard a Pennyworth series was coming. So I guess this is a question for you guys. Why the tone and what can we expect from that?
Well, I don't think DC has ever done like 60s England before. You know, we know what Metropolis was like then, we know what Gotham was like then, but we didn't know what it was like across the Atlantic. So that was the great thing, that when we first started discussing the project, we started talking about what does London look like then? What's happened? Is history the same it was in our history books, or is it slightly different? What has advanced in technology-wise? All of these questions were, you know, to create a world that these characters could fit into.
And Michael Caine insisted on his Alfred being a kick-ass soldier, which hadn't been in the canon before, as far as I know, so it gave us an in there. That's why it's dark and violent, because Michael Caine's soul is dark and violent.
Some serious like Yoda vibes from Alfred here. He's kicking ass, man. So Jack, tell me about your take on Alfred, because this is a character we've seen in a lot of mediums before. How did you make it your own?
Well, it's a daunting list of actors to join, and but I look at it that I'm not following them because I'm earlier in the story, so they're following me, and that gets me off the hook in my head. But it was, I mean, Bruno had written such a deep and complex version of him anyway, so the script was my Bible really, rather than comics. You know, he had some great ideas, and yeah, we sort of came up with him together, I think.
Were you a fan of like any comics or anything? Did you go read anything when you got cast? I mean, because you become an iconic character, I feel like, or do you just go with the script to make sure?
I went with the script because there's such a wealth of knowledge out there that you know, it was quite daunting. So the script was my Bible, and a lot of this takes place before the comics anyway, so we're filling in those blanks beforehand. So actually I made a conscious decision to not do that.
It helps make it your own. That's smart.
Yeah.
And I also read you guys said there are some James Bond influences, I guess, on Alfred. Curious if you had to like hone in on one James Bond, because we've had a lot of that. Who do you think was the biggest influence?
Oh, there is only one James Bond.
There's only one?
Yeah, there's no controversy there. It's Sean Connery. But this one doesn't do that. I think there's stuff in the show that is James. A lot of the music, it's very difficult to do early '60s England without getting echoes of Caine, Bond, and John Barry, and that whole shtick.
Yeah, the fashion and things like that as well. It just immediately
lends itself.
Takes you back there.
Sure. And Ben, you're playing Thomas Wayne, another big character in the DC lore. I'd love to hear about your take on him. Where is he at in his life when we find him?
So I guess we've never seen him before, or the beginnings of him. So that's the interesting thing about it, is like going right back. He's contained in the comic books to him being murdered, basically. And I think we've stayed faithful, or Bruno stayed faithful to elements of the character in that he's very moral and very upstanding. And in our version of it, where in the comic books he's working in medicine, he's caught up in a kind of covert world in Pennyworth, a bit more underground, and still has that strong moral compass, but has to question it a lot. There are some things that come up in the show where he has to make some compromising decisions against things that he believes in. So, but it's exciting, I guess, to see the kind of the part of the DNA. He's one half of what goes into become Batman. So that's been a really thing reading the scripts. And Martha is also Martha Caine is a huge part of the show as well as it progresses. So it's the beginnings of them, their kind of sparks of chemistry or not chemistry, and how they meet as well. So that's been an exciting thing to read and be part of.
So how's the relationship between
Also, as a mother, I'd just like to point out there's a lot of emphasis on Batman's dad, but actually the mother has more influence on a child than any other person in its life.
And it's true. No, to continue that line, Martha Kane should be here because, as he says, as both say, she's a big part of the show as well.
Every time I go on Instagram and post a picture of my child and it's Dad, everyone's like, oh, it's so cute, amazing, amazing. And then I do one of me and no one comments. It's like, you just take it for granted, like, you know, we create life and then everyone's just focused on the dad. So in Martha Kane's defence, she was a massive influence on Batman being the kick-ass guy he ended up being.
So then let me ask,
Or the messed up guy.
so let me ask you then, do you think that in watching this we'll catch vibes of how these two characters are responsible for
Absolutely.
creating the person of Batman? Like, in what ways can we expect to see like little Easter eggs of, this is how Batman ends up becoming their son?
It's more about seeing the arguably Batman's a very schizophrenic, messed up guy, but Martha and Thomas are both sides of him. The DNA is right there. The way that they clash together, the way that the sparks fly, but the way that they're angry at each other sometimes, and they have completely different ideals and different beliefs. And but together, though, if those things merge, you might create something really special.
So could this show lead to, in the same way you guys did Gotham before this, the way that led to David Mazouz's Bruce becoming Batman in the end, and that was kind of always the end goal. Could this lead to seeing Bruce be born? I think that kind of coming full circle.
Yeah, we're going to, by the fifth or sixth year, TV will moved on where it can be a sort of porno thing. So see Batman's mum and dad have it away, and the conception of Batman.
And it'll be live. It'll be a live stream.
Talk
with
about an
the
Easter
actual actors making of
Can't
birth
wait, I'm into
and
that.
conception.
Great.
It'll be a 9-month episode of the whole process.
Yeah.
I don't remember that part. But, I mean, I'll be
Definitely
there.
in the comic books.
I'm writing this one out till the end now. Then let me hear about your villain, kind of her story that you can share without kind of ruining anything before we see it.
So Bet Sykes is a villain. She tends to inflict most pain on the men around her. Then she only does what she needs to do to other females. She's kind of feels a little bit frustrated, and actually there's a lot of parallels between her and Alfred, because they both come from working class background, and they both, I think the cards that you're dealt when you come from a working class background is that there's an inevitability that you will serve somebody who potentially either is, you know, richer than you or was born into wealth or whatever. So I mean, I don't know what it's like here in America, but in Britain the class divide is still very strong, and it's definitive. It's more definitive than any other divides, more definitive than race, gender or anything. Class plays a massive role, and I think that is really illustrated in this, because we're talking about a British perspective of the DC universe. And so I feel like their characters are both working class, and they're both a bit frustrated because they sort of see themselves as deserving better than, you know, their lot, the cards, their destiny that was pre-assigned when they were born, sort of thing. But actually they're sort of supposed to not like each other. But occasionally they get confused because they're like, hang on, we're supposed to be enemies, but now we're kind of agreeing on this, and there's a lot of stuff playing with that. So I think what makes the show really exciting for me as well, as somebody who's not necessarily, I don't like things black and white when I'm viewing, I like complexity, and I liked Bruno's writing a lot, because I think what's interesting is when you realise that there's no such thing as a hero or a villain, and the lines are blurred, and those themes are explored a lot in this show, and it's great.
It's a laugh as well.
Yeah, it's like a kind of dark humour as well, like the timing's funny.
So who
The
has
fact that I stab people in...
That's the only thing the timing's funny.
No, it is a laugh. Like it depends what your humour is. I mean, I personally, and probably everyone in San Francisco who's watching, thinks it's funny to stab someone in the eye with a pin, but the rest of the world maybe doesn't.
Why San Francisco?
Yeah, what have you got against San Francisco?
No, it's not
going to
against.
San
It's
Francisco
pro.
ever again.
No, it's pro San Francisco. I think they all have really brilliant dark humour.
Oh, okay.
So I think they would laugh at that as I would, but maybe the rest of the world would feel uncomfortable about it.
Well, I'm never going to see the Golden Gate Bridge now. But let me wrap it up by asking you guys this. You're not allowed to say Jack. Who was your favorite live-action Alfred prior to Pennyworth?
Michael Caine.
Yeah.
Yeah. That'd be unanimous, wouldn't it?
He's the only one who played it, not to get back into the whole class thing, but a lot of the other ones played in posh, and there's no such thing as a posh butler. Jeremy Irons as a butler is silly. Sorry.
Poor Jeremy.
I love it. Well, thank you everybody for coming by the studio. I can't
Thank
wait
you.
till everybody sees these episodes. I don't even know if we're allowed to say we've seen them yet, but we have, and they're good. But thank you so much for coming by, everybody. And Comic Book Nation, thanks for watching. Make sure you stay tuned to comicbook.com all week long for more from San Diego Comic-Con.